Hello and welcome to Constitutional Cappuccino, the wake-up call to the Constitution and the ideals it espouses. My name is Frank Caprio. I'm going to be your host. Today, I'm going to talk about the election, something that nobody else is really talking about, and I'm just kidding. Of course, everyone's talking about it. But what I would like to do is to give a little constitutional perspective to this election. You know, what does a person who supports the Constitution think about the candidates, about what he's seeing, just about the overall process? The first thing I have to comment on, though, is the fear factor that we're seeing in these campaigns. From the left, from the Hillary campaign, they are not touting anything as an accomplishment from her. Maybe the first woman president, that would be an accomplishment that she would have. But if you looked at her time in elective office, there's nothing really to support there. So instead, they're saying that if you don't vote for Hillary, then you're voting for Trump. And voting for Trump is to put narcissistic, just demagogue with bad anger issues in the White House with his finger on the button. He's going to get us into wars. He's going to get Americans killed. He's going to destroy America. So you can't vote against Hillary because that's going to give Trump the presidency, and we can't have that. And then on the right-hand side, it's pretty much the same thing. Just take away Trump and put Hillary in that sentence, and, you get the ideology there. If you elect Hillary, then you're going to have 8 more years of Obama's policies, and the United States can't survive that. We have probably 3 Supreme Court vacancies that are going to be coming up, and she will fill them with people who are somehow going to take away our God-given rights. So, if you don't vote for Trump, then that means you're by default voting for Hillary, who's going to destroy our country. I mean, that's where the fear comes from. Now, let me tell you, as a constitutionalist, I originally supported Ted Cruz. I supported Ted Cruz because he supports and upholds the Constitution of the United States. He has a track record of doing so, too. If you look at Medellin versus Texas or Heller versus D.C., he has stood in the box and actually defended the Constitution in a meaningful way on multiple occasions. Neither one of the other 2 candidates can say that. I mean, Trump has never been in politics, though he has been involved in politics on the side. He's funded people to try to destroy the Tea Party, which is a group that I agree with, too, because we are taxed enough already. And Hillary, I mean, she's anti-gun. I mean, she doesn't, I don't know if she's probably read the Constitution, but she doesn't believe in any of it. So, I mean, basically that's what we're looking at right now, is both candidates saying don't vote for the other one, because if you do, then America is going to be destroyed. And the biggest fear factor in this campaign is the fear of a wasted vote. Again, I'm a constitutional conservative. I'm looking to support a candidate who supports the Constitution. So, since Ted Cruz isn't running, I decided, who can I support? So I started to look, and it wasn't hard to find. There was 2 that I found, Gary Johnson and Darrell Castle. Gary Johnson of the Libertarian Party, Darrell Castle of the Constitution Party. People that I can support. But when I started putting their names out there, what I got was, you're wasting your vote. If it was from the Hillary side and I said that, well, all you're doing is taking votes away from Hillary, and you're going to get Trump elected. Especially the Bernie supporters. Looks like Johnson's making a strong play for Bernie supporters. It's probably going to be pretty successful. There's some very outraged people there. And then on the Trump side, if I say I'm going to be voting for Gary Johnson or Darrell Castle, they say, oh, well, you're not voting for Trump. So that means that you're supporting Hillary, and you want 8 more years of Obama. So it's that wasted vote. And let me tell you, the only way, in my opinion, of course it's my opinion, it's the only opinion that I have, but in my opinion, the only way that you waste a vote is to not vote your conscience. If you can't vote for somebody, if you can't honestly say that this person is the person that will represent myself and my ideals, then the best thing you can probably do is just not to vote for either person in that race. Don't vote out of fear. That's exactly how we got to this position, having another Clinton in the White House or having Trump who, bottom line, I'm not going to vote for either New York liberal this year. We don't need another liberal in the White House. We need somebody who understands the Constitution and the ideals it espouses and who will fight for those ideals. So Gary Johnson. Gary Johnson isn't perfect. We're never gonna find if men were angels, we wouldn't even need government. So you're never gonna find the perfect candidate. But the reason I can support Gary Johnson, and I will be supporting him in the election, is because he understands what a constitutionally limited government is. He has a plan to actually reduce the size of government, get rid of government agencies which are unconstitutional. He is all for attacking the IRS, getting rid of the income tax, going to some kind of flat or consumption tax. And one of the most un-American agencies that we have right now is the IRS, and they need to be gone. And Johnson is one of those people that talks about that, and that's why I can support him. Again, he doesn't represent all of my views, but on the very most important subjects, balancing a budget, limited constitutional government, states' rights, he is the man for the job. Darrell Castle of the Constitution Party is even a stronger advocate for the Constitution, I would say. But I have ulterior motives also voting for Johnson. I want to support libertarianism. I want to get libertarians to a threshold to where they can participate on the national level in a competitive way with the Republicans and Democrats. And once people hear the libertarian message of limited government, supporting the Bill of Rights, stopping the unconstitutional laws coming out of Washington, D.C., they see that it is a true solution. But I looked at Darrell Castle. He's a great guy. The Constitution Party, unfortunately, isn't on the ballot in every state, though I see that happening. And before the next election cycle, I definitely see that happening. And I can't fault anybody who wants to vote for Darrell Castle because he does stand up for the Constitution. And let me tell you, I would support Darrell Castle even though he is one of those that says Ted Cruz is ineligible to run for president because of his birth issue. There's this thing called principles. And, I have the principle that I want somebody in the White House who is going to uphold and support the Constitution. Darrell Castle is the man that I could get behind. If something happened to Gary Johnson, or I found out that Gary Johnson's really a closet Clinton supporter. Not that any of this is true, but if I found out something bad, I'm not voting for the man. I'm voting for the principles. If those people can be shown to consistently support the principles that I support, then I will support them. I don't support the actual person because people can change. You look back in our history. Great men like Madison and Jefferson, and they had some views, at the start of their life, the end of their life, in the middle somewhere, that is like, where did this come from? So I don't support men. I support principles. I support men who support the principles that I support. That's about as simple as I can get it. And I think more people thought that way, then we would have a lot better election cycle. We would have better people in office right now. And this leads me into kind of the education side, the constitutional side of everything that I'm observing right now. I alluded to it earlier that one of the reasons that I'm supporting Johnson is because I want to support the Libertarian Party. The Libertarian Party of Florida's principles that they support, and I'm going to be going into a whole other podcast just on that. But the ones that they support are along the Madison-Jefferson conservative side, state nullification, national sovereignty, abiding by the Bill of Rights, constitutional government, Article 1, Section 8, limited government, all the good stuff. That's exactly what the libertarians are for liberty, and the most pro-liberty document that this world has ever seen is the Constitution of the United States. I'll say it again, and I've said it I think in every podcast now, but I like saying it because it's absolutely true. Is the only reason that we are as prosperous and free a nation as we are is because of the Constitution of the United States of America, and included in that Constitution, of course, is the Bill of Rights. So, if we can get enough people to vote Libertarian, which I can't imagine that the Libertarians aren't going to hit a 10 or 12 or 15% threshold this year. Looking at the other two bozos that we have going to be nominated, Clinton and Trump. What that means for the future going forward is that we have libertarians, and we'll see a big grassroots surge of libertarians at county and city and state levels running for office. They're going to be interjecting a libertarian message into the debates. Maybe they won't win at the start, but what they do, imagine Gary Johnson on the stage with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. They're going to be touting their big status, big government. Trump will say the government, if I'm controlling it, I'll make it do this, and it'll be really good for the people. It'll be huge. It'll be the best presidency you ever saw. And Hillary will, say, well, the government, I'll just make it bigger so we can help people. We're going to get Wi-Fi for everybody, and phones. Oh, forget phones. We're going to get everyone laptop computers and mobile devices, and But if you had Gary Johnson up there, he'd be talking sense, and people would look at these other two insane people talking their little talking points, and then they could contrast it with Gary. So just by having him up on the stage, that would pull them back towards reality and back towards what would actually be good for America. And that's what I'm looking for this election. I honestly don't think Gary Johnson is going to win. Now, I will say that if everybody started voting their conscience and voting principles, that Gary Johnson would be a shoo-in for the presidency. But that isn't going to happen, and I realize that. As things get worse, more people wake up. A lot of people have much higher thresholds. They're doing real good in life. They've lived the American dream, and they've got money, and they still have their freedom to go do the things they do, but there's a more and more people as we move forward who are becoming disaffected for one reason or another, and they realize that the next generation probably isn't going to have it better than this generation. This is going to be one of the first generations to be able to say that. And so they're waking up. They're looking for answers. They're starting to ask questions, and they're looking for answers. And that's where the Libertarians come in. That's where the Constitution Party comes in. They start filling in the blanks and saying, look, this is how you've been misled. This is what we need to do to make this experiment successful again. 50 states, 50 cauldrons of experimentation, trying their own little ways to make their state prosperous so their citizens, can live the American dream. Reducing the amount of influence that Washington, D.C. has on the states. As people start hearing this message, it starts to make sense. As people experience, it's real easy to make laws that affect other people, but as those laws start personally affecting you, and you can identify, how those laws are suppressing your life, taking more money out of your pocket, or telling you can't, do this or do that, or you got to have a permit to do this, and you got to have a license to do that, and this regulation says that you have to do this a certain way. I mean, that's not what made America great. That's not what made America prosperous. And it's become so ingrained in American society that we have a problem. What is government going to do about it? We got to stop asking that question, because every time we do, we give the statists just a little bit more power to control our lives. So just think about that. I'm going to relate a story. I think I've related this in another podcast, but it is so appropriate here that I'm going to talk about it again real quick. I lived in Orem, Utah for a couple years, and let me tell you, it was good old American city. You could leave your doors unlocked at night, leave the bike out in front. It was low crime, just great people, friendly, good family units, polite kids and all that. But anyway, one night somebody on the jogging trail got mugged. They got their possessions stolen. And the reaction. The people didn't say that we needed more police presence or whatever. They showed up themselves literally for the next few weeks. We had hundreds of people walking up and down that trail at night just to protect each other. Thugs, somebody come out to rob would not have had a chance. And I mean, that went on, and it wasn't hundreds, for like 2 or 3 months, but for the first few weeks, there were literally hundreds of people out there every night to make sure everyone was safe. That was the community reaction. They realized that it was up to them to make sure that they had a safe community. And even 3 months down the road, there wasn't hundreds, but there were still groups of 20 or 30 people, walking up and down the trail. To make sure it was safe. That's the kind of reaction we the people need to have. We look at this algae bloom, down in the South Florida. I would love for some private entrepreneurs to say, look, this is the way we solve the problem. We don't need politics. We don't need politicians. We don't need government intruding any more into our lives. Government does have a legitimate purpose in our life. Cleaning up the algae bloom actually is one of the purposes, but our government is so screwed up at this point, pointing fingers left and right and all that stuff. They're looking for political advantage, not solutions. That's why I say that a private company coming out and saying we can do this, and the people getting behind that and just getting it done. Screw the Army Corps of Engineers. Screw the Department of Agriculture. From Tallahassee, we're just going to get this stuff done. And that's the way people need to start thinking. All right, and like I promised, a little bit of a look at the constitutional aspects of some things that we're seeing today. First of all, when the Constitution was being crafted, the people in that convention hall, were worried about representation. We had a representative form of government, but what would be true representation? How many people, can one person represent? They didn't know, I don't think, the full extent, of exactly the size of the United States, but they knew it was huge. They knew there were going to be millions. They may not have known hundreds of millions, but they knew there were going to be millions of people. They referenced that many times. So they knew that it was going to be a lot bigger than the 3 million that they had there in the 1780s. I think that was the number, right around 3 million. They knew it was going to be a lot bigger than that. And so, how could you adequately represent that amount of people? Right now, we have congressional districts that there's one person representing, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. That doesn't work. There's no way that you can adequately represent that many people. And to take a broader look at it, we have two parties that supposedly represent the views of all Americans, and that is patently false. What I see as a vision for the future, a vision for a more prosperous and free America, is not just 3 parties, not 4, maybe 5 or 6, maybe even 7. Who knows where the upper limit can be? And the way it would work is that these parties, these factions, they have their ideas that they support. And every now and then a good idea comes by that, or something needs to be done, that enough of these factions can get together and say, hey, look, we're on board with this. They can get a majority. They can, they get the backers in Congress to actually pass a law, or even on the state level, or even at the, city or county level. The same thing happens at every level of government. These coalitions or these factions come together and they say, look, this is a good idea, so we're going to support it. And they're not supporting each other and everything else. It isn't like they're coming together and, they're for this one object. They say, this is a good idea, so we're going to do it. And they get it done. And then they go back to their respective corners, opposing each other on the different policies that they disagree on. And that's a good, healthy society. We only allow the things that we actually need. But with the two-party system that we have right now, it just isn't working. That's why I want to support the Libertarians. I think they have the best chance, and they do support the Constitution. I am sacrificing nothing intellectually or morally by supporting the Libertarians in their cause. That they have the best chance of becoming the next third party. And then hopefully, like I said, looking at the Constitution Party, their platform is strong. They need support also. So I hope they come up as a fourth party. And then the Democrats are already fracturing. Republicans are definitely already fracturing. Trump is definitely helping that along. But that's fine. I mean, that's the way it should be. I don't want majority parties anymore. I think we need to have a much healthier government and have more people represented in their views. I mean, to me, that just makes sense. That the two parties, as a conservative, I look at the Republican Party as the water carriers for the Democrats anymore. The last appropriations bill from Paul Ryan that the Congress passed, I mean, it was horrendous. One of the constitutional powers and the most powerful power was given to the House of Representatives. And that was for a reason, because those are the people that actually represent the people of America. The most important part of America is the people, and the House represents those people. They gave them the power of the purse. All appropriations bills will originate in the House of Representatives. There's a reason for that. That is the most powerful, because no matter what else happens in government, if it isn't funded, it can't happen. They can, for some reason they pass a bill or whatever, and then it comes out, if the House of Representatives says it does not appropriate money for it, then it just doesn't happen. And we just need to remember that. Yeah, so thanks for listening. One thing I would like to challenge you to do, and since I did it, it's really opened up my eyes, is to identify when someone or something or some organization is trying to use fear to motivate you. I just did a little experiment, and what I did was just started listing things that somebody or something was telling me that I should fear. And as I made the list, I realized that, oh my God, this is what it's all about. It's about fear. Fear is the motivating factor. Here, Zika. And that's just because Ebola wasn't working. So we came up with Zika, terrorism, man-made global climate warming change, crime, Y2K, GMOs, guns, sunshine, water, food coloring, highway safety, pedestrian safety, ozone depletion, pollution, overfishing, farm-raised fish, marijuana, unregistered contractors, automobiles, bicycles, bottled water, Hillary, Trump, wasting a vote, hate speech, racism, violence, Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, Al-Qaeda, Hamas, being out of shape, exercising too much, global cooling, one world government, the United Nations, Agenda 21, gun confiscation, boats, swimming in lakes, flesh-eating bacteria, bathtubs, government, police shootings, socialism, communism, capitalism, greed, hate, religion, conservatism, liberalism, cancer, the military, veterans, bikers, gangs, the Constitution, free enterprise, taxes, tyranny, sharks, oil, radiation, chemtrails, insecticides, bombs, assault weapons, freon, carbon dioxide, greenhouse gases, semi-automatic weapons, heat indexes, wind chill factors, severe storms, algae, E. coli, and as I read these, I even thought of a couple more. Aliens is one. Maybe not a lot of people fear them, but some people do because they're told to. But anyway, I mean, that makes my point, is that we live in a society of fear. And the elections that we're seeing, I mean, that's how they're being run. Don't let fear rule your life. That's all I'm saying. If it does, if you are motivated out of fear, then you are much less likely to make correct decisions. I mean, imagine in a stress situation, God forbid there's an active shooter, or your car plunges into a lake. Are you thinking clear? I mean, you may be thinking, but you're not sitting down going, well, this is exactly what's happening. I am following it 10 feet per second. I'm going to be hitting the bottom in approximately 3 seconds. The car is moderately upright, should land straight. I should be able to pop out. No, you're freaking out. You want to get out of that car. You want to get back up to the top of the lake where there's oxygen. And as we allow our society to be crafted in fear, then it's more like dropping down into a lake than it is making rational decisions. So, just take a step back. Realize that if Hillary does get elected, that our rights are still given by God. They're inalienable. And when any government tries to take them away, there's things we have to do to make sure that doesn't happen. But just because another puppet named Hillary Clinton's going to be in the office doesn't mean that we have to freak out and, go hide in our basements. And the same thing with Trump. So, like I said, just take a breath. Figure out what it is that you think would make these United States better. What direction is prosperity? What direction is liberty? What direction is the best for a long living country? And then you support the people who are going to bring us in that direction. But anyway, you have a great day. This is Frank Caprio, Constitutional Cappuccino, the wake-up call to the Constitution and the ideals it espouses.